Hey guys, welcome back to the Skinny Truth podcast. We are on episode 11, I think. I'm here with Dr. Roller, and today we are going to talk about one of it ranks up there on one of a really popular question I get is, did I have stalls in my journey? And what do you do when you have a stall? Is there anything you can do? So we're going to tackle that today. As always, you can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and you can watch it on YouTube. And we would love it if you would like, comment, subscribe, all the things. Let's dive in.
All right, yeah, so stalls. And I guess let's start off with what does that mean in the world of weight loss surgery? And that is, you're losing weight, you have the surgery, you're losing weight, and then somehow you get on that scale the next day and it doesn't move. You did everything the exact same as you've been doing it, and then the next day it doesn't move. And the next day it doesn't move. That's what we're referring to as a stall. The weight loss has stalled out and you're not losing like you did.
So I have a question about this. How long does it have to be considered a stall? Is there such thing?
I don't think there's an actual definition of what is considered a stall. I think when you get beyond a week, probably it's a little abnormal. I would say that's a stall. Definitely at 2 weeks, if the weight has stopped coming off, you are definitely in a stall at that point. So, it's nothing to worry about 2, 3, 4 days. But as you get to that between 1 and 2 weeks, and like, okay, now I'm in the process. And they are normal to some degree. It's not an abnormal thing to have them. I mean, it's a body's reaction. So just remember, before surgery, your body sees fat as energy. That's all it is. It's just a life source. Now, why it's hanging on to so much energy, we don't know. That's the problem with obesity. Your body's trying to hang on to it. But as you're trying to lose weight before surgery, you're on a diet, you're losing weight, and your body goes, oh my gosh, something's wrong with Laura. She's losing weight. And so it does all the things it does to protect you. It's going to slow your metabolism, increase your hunger, decrease your fullness, all to get you to eat more. So on a normal diet, right, first week, it kind of is miserable because you're starving. And then the next week, you kind of get used to it. But then by 6 to 8 weeks, that 1.5 to 2 months, it's like everything you were doing now isn't working. And so that's how we're a diet, not just stalls, but ends.
Yeah.
I would say in the world of weight loss surgery, the couple times that you will see a stall is very common. So for our program, we do 2 weeks of a high protein liquid diet. And I always tell people not to worry about that. It's a hard 2 weeks, not because you're starving to death, but because it's boring. It's just,
it's all mental.
It is 100%. But when you transition to soft foods at that point, and we don't do like pureed and all that kind of stuff, we just, and follow your own surgeons, what they do. But this is how we do it. We do anything you can easily cut with a fork. As you introduce that, it's more calories. And your body goes through a little transition where the weight loss was coming off pretty good. Now you've introduced more food, more carbs all of a sudden, and it's going to not lose the weight the way it was. And so it will happen in the first couple of days. And that's pretty normal. Then the weight loss keeps going. But I would say the main thing to remember was, if people think the weight loss goes like this, it's a steady ramp. It really is not. It's like this, boom, and it levels out.
Right.
And why that happens, I don't know. People will come in and go, I haven't lost any weight in 2 days. And then yesterday I lost 5 pounds. I've seen it enough to know that it's normal.
Yeah. And when talking about the stalls in the beginning, that's the one that I can remember the most for myself, is around that 3-week mark. So I had reintroduced soft foods for a week, and then I stalled out. And it can be very discouraging because you're like, I just had this surgery. I'm not hardly eating anything. Why isn't it moving? But that's such a notorious time. I feel like across the board, I mean, you said it is, so.
It is. And you know that it's coming, know that it happens. And if it doesn't, great. But when it does, or if it does, you just have to keep doing the right things. You can't let it discourage you, because it is normal. And I would say 90% of patients, I mean, I'm just tossing that number out there, have a stall. You'll see some that, nope, I lost 2 pounds a week and I've been going this whole time, or 2 to 4 pounds. I would say, guys, tend to be the kind that just lose their weight rapidly and then level out, and they kind of enter like the permanent stall because they've lost everything.
Yeah, that's kind of where Luke's at right now.
Yeah, he doesn't have much more to lose.
Yeah, he doesn't. He's at 182
in like 6 months.
and his goal, his personal goal was 175. His BMI is 24, but he only has like 6 pounds to go. And I'm like, babe, like you might just be where you're at. So, and that's his first real stall.
Well, and I would say that's what I do see. I do see males will just lose it all fast. And so when we're doing married couples, I always prefer the woman to go first. Yeah. So they get a significant head start, and especially bigger males. They really do lose weight really fast. You see this also in diets, head to head. Right. Males and females will end up in the exact same spot. It's not like you won't get there. It's just males go, bam, here, and then females go this way, and you
takes a little bit longer. Yeah.
It just takes longer, but there is no studies out there to say males lose more weight, females lose more weight. You get there. So I do think for females, the stalls are more common to see them in the end. And then like for us, it usually month 3 is when we'll go to the full on regular diet, where we're introducing some carbs back. And we do that depending on weight loss. And then at month 6 is when we kind of do it again. And that is also a few more carbs depending on your weight loss. And that will tinker with weight coming off or not. And so when we see stalls at that point, I would say after 3 months out to a year and you hit one and you're not losing the weight, I think that's where a lot of people, when we hear the dreaded word stall, I think that's what they're talking about. Is like, oh my gosh, my surgery has stopped working.
Right.
So you just got to think about what's happening. Your body is trying to adjust. It is trying to figure out what the heck is happening. You just lost a lot of weight. Like Luke's body right now, 6 months out, lost almost all his weight. It's like, okay, I was sleeping at the wheel. I've got to do something to help this guy out. So it's not coming off, even though he's not changed.
Right.
It's kind of like your body's set point, where your energy burn and your calorie intake they level up. So what I would tell people to do during stalls, and there's so many different pieces of advice. This is just my thing. I think it's very exercise dependent, and that's the time to change up your exercise. I love to do the Peloton, and I found even in my own self, because we're all constantly trying to lose 5 pounds.
Right.
That after 3 or 4 months of the same, doing a 45-minute bike ride, you're like, okay, I'm not having the same results that I was having. So then that's when I switched to doing like what they call a boot camp, which is like floor exercises and bike. And then it's like, okay, now I feel like it's doing something. And you got to change what your body is seeing and feeling. And you change it up, kind of shock the body, and then it gets going again. Did you have any of those kind of stalls at that period of time?
I did. I didn't have a ton of stalls. I had the 3-month stall, and then it was probably really around that 7 month mark. None of my stalls lasted more than 2 weeks. They were pretty short lived, but I really do think the exercise, because your body gets used to it, and then you might not be pushing yourself as hard. You're used to it. So you need to do something else to help get your heart rate up more and challenge yourself. I also found you want to make sure you're meeting your protein goals. If you're not meeting your protein goals, like that could affect it. Like you said, back to basics. Make sure your protein, water, and then the exercise, mix it up. I also found, though, this is random, carbohydrates. So we keep them fairly low while we're losing. But I noticed sometimes if I was in a stall, if I upped those carbs just a little bit, sometimes the scale would then move. I don't know why.
No, it can, and everyone's different. So I don't think there's necessarily a right or a wrong way. When you think about the exercise, it's like, okay, you start off you could do 10 push-ups. But after a week, 10 push-ups a day. After a week of doing 10 push-ups a day, it's going to be easier to do the 10 at the end of a week than it was at the beginning of the week.
Right.
So you really need to be doing 12, 15. And I think that's the part of exercise that is so important. Like, we walk our dogs at night. We walk the same 2.1 miles. It's the same thing. So we're not doing that for exercise. We're doing it for the dogs. But that, it's easier to do it on month 3 than it was on month 1. So I think that's where you really have to understand that your body is getting stronger. You have to push it more, hot and sweaty. What was making you hot and sweaty may not be doing it now, even though it's the same thing. So really, really encourage the exercise. And then I'll have people start keeping a food journal. And I think that's the other thing to do in a stall is really track what you're putting in your body.
Yeah, that's a good
where
one.
Liquid calories will get you. I mean, and I'm from Oklahoma, I live in Arkansas, so I got to keep things very simple. We don't do just a simple country surgeon. So we think I look at two numbers, and I know the people that will really get into this, the dietitian part. But I thought just back to the basics: look at protein, look at calories. At the end of the day, calories do matter. What you're burning, what you're putting in, and that's where some people realize like how many calories they're getting in that they didn't think so, because they were getting they're really trying to get their protein in,
right?
Which is a good thing, but not if it's 2,800 calories,
right?
So that's where what you put in. So write it down, look at it. You may see some trends that you're like, okay, well, scale started moving here and I was doing this. So maybe that's what I need to focus more on. And so for you, I bet you if you were to write that down, hey, I'm going to add some carbs here or do this, and you see the scale moving, then you go back and go, this is how I rate my stalls.
Yeah. Yep. I diligent on tracking. I can't recommend you. I feel like you should be tracking as you're losing, because if you're not aware, it's easy to be like, oh, I'm good. But like you said, it can sneak up on you.
I'll never forget. This was really early on when I first started. So 17 years ago, nicest lady patient, but, did her gastric bypass, and she came in at 2 weeks. I generally expect people to lose the 15 to 25 pounds. It depends on your starting weight. I've had somebody lose 52 pounds in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh, and I walked in and he was bouncing off the walls with so much energy. I was like, this is not what I expected. But this lady, she came in and she lost like 6 pounds. I was like, okay, this is not normal. What happened here? And she goes, I'm on liquid diet. I was like, you have to be eating. Like, there is no way. I know you had surgery. I remember the surgery. I remember it was early on, so I wasn't doing as many.
Right.
She went out, grabbed her protein drinks, brought them in, and she bought the high protein Ensure. And yes, it was high protein. And the marketing got her. She saw the words high protein. What she didn't look at was the total calories. And high protein Ensure, at least at that time, was meant for people that were trying to gain weight. Elderly people, nursing home, that maybe had a hard time eating, or trying to keep them nourished, maybe jaws wired. That was what it was meant for.
Right.
So we agreed to do the 2 weeks over again and put her on and we learned a lot about educating patients on proper protein drinks and things like that.
Right.
And then I remember, I think it was like 23 or 24 pounds.
Wow. Yeah.
And so she was doing it the right way, liquid protein, but she forgot the other component or didn't realize that. And so I think that is where you're tracking, and probably why you've been so successful is you have to be meticulous with those couple of numbers, protein and calories and exercise.
And I honestly didn't pay a ton of attention to calories while I was losing. But if you're following the guidelines like high protein, low fat, low carb, typically your calories are going to fall where they need to fall, right?
Absolutely. They will. Low fat, low carb equals low calorie. So it's literally, if you have a ribeye and you have a filet, and I use this example all the time, you're going to get the same amount of protein. But the filet will have like a half to a third of the calories of the ribeye because it has so much fat in it. So you can also look at, instead of looking at total calories, you can look at fat and you can look at carbs. If either one of those is high, it's going to be higher in calories. And so, they're both good to look at. It's just another extra thing to study. But, there are protein bars out there that are high in calories. High in protein, but then they have,
a lot of
300 calories in them. And so that's when you get to in the line, this is going to be really careful, especially in the time of stalls of, do you go to Starbucks too often? Are you getting more calories in? And there are great things you can get at Starbucks. So it's not like you can't go there. You just have to, the whipped cream, the half and half,
it all
sugar,
adds up.
Chocolate. It really, really does. So, it's always, have you not noticed, like you go to restaurants now or anywhere you're thinking about getting something, and when they print the calories on it, have you seen that on the menus?
Yes.
Does it kind of get your attention a little bit and go,
it really does.
Man.
Yeah. And it will veer me like, okay, well then I'm going to choose this option because it's lower calorie than this one. And sometimes it's shocking. Like you would think one option would be better for you than the other one's not.
That's right. So the place that gets me every time, and so it's close to our daughter's high school, it's a good place to hit after school before basketball games, but it's Tropical Smoothie.
Oh, yes.
And they put it on there, and it's like, boy, I really want that peanut butter banana blaster or whatever. You're going, I don't remember, it was 800, 700,
insane
800 calories. I go, oh, okay, give me the green lizard or whatever, it's all...
Right.
Cucumbers and avocados. Yeah. But that's why looking at the details in a stall is important, because you can get shocked. Things can sound good. A lot of people, and this is another thing that I think causes stalls, and that people don't realize. They hear the word smoothie and you hear the word fruit, and you would conceptually think that is okay. Remember the old food pyramids and getting your fruit and vegetables in. However, if you're making your smoothies, let's say you're using low-fat Greek yogurt, you're putting your ice in there, a little bit of milk, but you're being careful. But then you add a whole bunch of strawberries and blueberries. You just shot that thing right up into the high-calorie zone.
Right.
And so it is hard for people to understand. Yes, a little bit of fruit is okay. It depends on the type of fruit. But that's why I always keep coming back to calorie counts. But if in your method, you would look at carbs, because they would be high in...
Right.
That. And so it gets you to the exact same.
Yeah, depending on which route you go.
Yeah, I mean, it really is the same thing. High calorie is either going to come from fat or carbs. And so that is where, to break your stall, if you go all the way back to the beginning, like, I'm going to track these things, and I'm really going to watch what I put in, and I'm really going to focus on what I'm burning. It will break, and it will turn around, and if you run into questions, like for us, you call our dietitians, you say, hey, is this we've literally had people call us from the grocery store in the aisle going, this is saying something, is this good or not? Right. And I will tell you, the labels, there's a reason why people get paid a whole lot of money to market, because their whole goal is to get you to look at it and go, I want that. That's good for me.
Right.
So you got to worry about things like no sugar added. Okay. That doesn't mean no sugar.
Right.
It just means they didn't add any extra to it.
Exactly.
Which may be good if it's low in sugar, or if it's already high in sugar, it's not good.
Right.
So, and it shouldn't be that hard. I mean, this really shouldn't be that hard for patients to make, or humans, us, to make a good decision. But marketing is done in such a way that it purposely is trying to confuse us or mislead us. And, it's things that you have to be almost a registered dietitian to make a good food choice from, while at the grocery store. But that's the name of the game. And I promise you, I think our patients, they know so much more about nutrition than they ever did before. I mean,
and I was going to end with like that point, that education is so important. Like, because I do get messages from people that programs don't do a lot of educating, and they're kind of just like lost out there by themselves. So having a dietitian, choosing a program that has that is so important, because you need it to be successful.
Even if it's just to reinforce your good habits. And I think that's why we preach follow up. It's not always about a slap on the hand, oh, you shouldn't do that. Sometimes this is really good. Your food journal looks awesome. Your weight loss is awesome. Tell me what you're doing well. Reaffirm your success and how you're doing it. I think that's the important piece. And everybody's human. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to make some bad choices. The whole key is just not compounding bad choices with more. And once you just say, okay, not doing that again. Okay, look, I've had 2 nights in a row of something that's a little more high calorie than I need. We're taking a break, back to the basics. Let's get this weight loss started again. And the more you do it, the easier it is, the better your weight loss will be. Just don't get down if the scale hasn't moved in a couple of days. Do all the things to be right, and then it will happen. And it will, and it's just a normal part. And don't get after your husband because he drops all his weight in the first 6 months. And
yeah,
it took me a year and a half and you did in 6 months. It's like, we don't have marriage counseling here, so we're not going to get into, but just it's males and females are different.
Yes.
Everybody is different. You have to really not necessarily compare your journey to somebody else's. You'll get there if you do it right.
And consistency is key. You just have to stay consistent. Well, I think that's all we've got on stalls today.
Again, thank you so much for joining us on the Skinny Truth podcast. Remember, you can download this from the podcast store, Spotify, watch us on YouTube. Be sure to like, comment, and share, and leave your questions, so we can get those answered on future episodes. But we're thankful for all of y'all allowing us to do this and y'all joining us. So we want everybody to have a great week, and we'll see you next episode.
See you next week.